I wanted to make a quick video in response to a comment asking about the color cast of Freewell's ND filters for the Mini 4 Pro. I do have an answer as well as a curious question of my own regarding auto exposure on the Mini 4 Pro. So I'm hoping someone can answer that. So I was hoping to do this test in a controlled environment so that all the lighting and all the colorful objects that I have around me will be the same and only the filter will change. However, I ran into a couple issues as you'll soon see. So first I set the exposure to auto while in Pro mode so that I could manually set the white balance. But I noticed I was a bit overexposed, so I dialed back on the exposure compensation. After starting without a filter, I put on an ND16 and saw that the exposure was too dark. I was thinking that this might be because I was in video mode, so I switched to photo mode, which would allow the shutter speed to go as slow as it needed. However, even in photo mode, the filtered images would look darker than no filter. It wasn't because of a limitation of the shutter speed or ISO. I just don't know why it is. So that leads me to my question to anyone watching, which is, if I'm in full auto mode, why won't the exposure just compensate regardless of having a filter or no filter? Because I know I can manually change the settings and make the image look just as bright. So it's not a limitation of the camera or the software. I'm not sure if I've overlooked a setting somewhere, but this has been consistent with all filters, both indoors and outdoors. So this has kind of got me curious to know why. Anyway, if you know the answer, leave it in the comments, that'd be awesome. Now, to continue this test, I decided not to worry too much about the exposure since this is just about comparing the colors. I did my best to manually match exposure after the fact. So starting with no filter, this will be my baseline. Let's compare that with an ND16. Besides some vignetting and a little bit of noise, I can't say that I really see a difference in color. ND32 adds more noise and vignette, and it just gets noisier when using the ND64 filter. The UV filter looks pretty much the same as no filter. And the mist filter looks less sharp, a bit out of focus, and the contrast is reduced, but the colors seem unaffected. The polarized versions of the filters look pretty much the same as the non-polarized versions. Of course, they're meant to be used to reduce glare, like on the surface of water, but the colors seem unaffected. At this point, I hadn't really noticed any changes in the color cast until the LPR filter. The light pollution reduction filter made everything look magenta, and this is quite obvious. I did actually decide to go outside even though the lighting conditions would change, but I wanted to test out the darker filters without a whole bunch of noise. With the auto exposure not doing what I'd hoped and the sunlight changing, it was tough to get a real exact comparison. On some of these I feel like the blue in the sky looks more deep or vibrant, but I'm not really sure if it's the filter or just the difference in exposure or the time of day. So I can't really say there's much of a color shift, at least in any obvious way, other than, of course, the LPR filter. That is the one filter in this pack that unquestionably changes the color balance. So hopefully that was helpful to at least one person. Let me know in the comments if there was a better way I could have done this. I'm always curious to learn. If you want to check out the filters, the link's in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Ready, Set, Drone.